All of you have done so much that we're proud of, and as you graduate, you will have an opportunity to use your educational experience at Mason to make the world a better place in which to live, and that's the ultimate purpose. I look forward really to hearing about your successes. And along those lines, I want to introduce today's College of Science degree celebration keynote speaker, Mr. Mark Monson. Mark embodies the scientific Mason patriot spirit we've encouraged you to cultivate. Like some of you in this crowd, he holds a bachelor's degree science in biology from Mason. If I recall, you're stepping on 50 years, almost 50 years ago. Now imagine that experience. Imagine Mason 50 years ago. Imagine where we were. And Mark has spent the majority of his career in public service with the Commonwealth of Virginia. What a great example of giving back to your community, to that community that embraced you as an undergraduate student. He then, after receiving his biology degree from Mason, he then received his Master of Science in Accounting in Public Administration from George Washington University, as well as a certificate in Information Systems from Virginia Commonwealth University. Mark is also a graduate of the Commonwealth of Virginia Management Institute, the Virginia Collaborative Leaders Program, and the Virginia Executive Institute. A preview to what I'm sure he'll discuss, he is a firm believer in lifelong learning. As a matter of fact, Mark, you have spent quite a bit of the last few semesters taking classes here at Mason. He still takes classes each semester through our senior citizens tuition waiver program for a few years. He started his career as a lab technician for Fairfax County government and retired recently after 40 years of service. He has served numerous state agencies during the course of his career. His responsibilities included all aspects: administration, finance, support services, and this is the living embodiment of what I was referring to earlier, right? That you can take your science degree from Mason, you can pretty much take it anywhere you want to go. Isn't it amazing what the foundation of a Mason degree can help one accomplish? It's unbelievable. Recently, Mark retired from the Department of Health Professions, which is the agency responsible for licensing and regulating Virginia's healthcare professionals, where he served as overall deputy director. And Mark's connection to Mason is an example. It is broad and it is deep. He's extremely committed. He's an active Mason alumni. He currently serves as president of the College of Science Alumni Chapter and generously shares his time, his talent, and financial support with us. He attends routinely, I see Mark all the time, he attends routinely outreach events for the college and has established endowments including a scholarship for biology majors. He has also established a scholarship for visual arts majors in honor of his late wife, Nancy. And he has supported an endowment for the Athletic Academic Support Center. Mark is the first of 8 of his extended family who are Mason alumni, including his brother and his first wife, his 2 children and their spouses, and his stepdaughter. I'm sure he also hopes his 2 grandchildren will be part of the Mason alumni one day. Ladies and gentlemen, it warms my heart. It's an immense honor and pleasure to give a warm welcome to our distinguished alumni, Mr. Mark Monson.
First, I got to take this off. This tassel keeps hitting me in the face. Can I give this to somebody? Thanks. Well, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Dean Morales-Wilhelm, for inviting me to speak today. It's truly an honor and a privilege to be here. Congratulations, alumni. Welcome to the College of Science chapter of the George Mason University Alumni Association. I also want to say again, thank you, families, loved ones. It's due to your support throughout the years that have made today possible. Graduates, give them a round of applause. I didn't wear the right pair of glasses, so I'm going to have to hold this up, if that's okay. 50 years ago, I was sitting where you are now, getting ready to graduate from Mason with a BS in biology and contemplating my future. Now, as you all get ready to move on to the next chapters of your life's stories, I thought it would be helpful to try and put today in some perspective. To do that, let me take you back to when George Mason and I were very young. Yeah, that's true. When I started at Mason in 1969, the campus consisted of 6 buildings. The north, south, east, and west buildings, which is around the original quad, the library and just the 2-story part of it, and the lecture hall. Everything else, including where we are today, was woods. The total student body was about 1,500 students. Not too many more than are just graduating from the College of Science. That was the whole student body. There were no dorms. Everyone commuted. Now think about this. Where the field house and the playing fields are now, across 123, that was an old abandoned farm. There was no SciTech campus, there was no Arlington campus, there was no Potomac Research campus. The South Korea campus hadn't even been thought of. We didn't have a place for our basketball team to play. Until the PE building was built in 1972, we had to play our home basketball games at local high school gyms. Yeah, think about that. George Mason College was a tiny 6-building campus in a clearing carved out of several hundred acres of woods here in Fairfax. The only way to get onto campus was from University Drive. Both Braddock Road and 123 were 2 lanes. They were like old country roads. There was no traffic light at the intersection of Braddock Road and 123 my freshman year. Just a stop sign. Neither Braddock Road nor 123 had an entrance to campus. Just the only way, nor was there one for Roberts Road. For those of you who come in Roberts Road was smaller than Braddock Road, and you just barely make your way through it. The only entrance to campus was off of University Drive, and it led to the one and only parking lot on campus. But think about that, one and only one, and it was in that area where Merton Hall is now. That was the parking lot. In those days, Mason had 5 undergraduate degrees. There was a BA and BS in biology, and BAs in chemistry, math, and physics. That's it. No graduate degrees. The facilities back then were pretty spare compared to today. The chemistry department, all the labs and the classrooms, were on the top floor of the South Building, which is now called Grew Call. The biology department was on the ground floor, all the classrooms and labs. The math, physics, and yes, our computer link to the computer at UVA in Charlottesville was in the West Building. Today, as you all know, the College of Science occupies multiple buildings in the Fairfax and SciTech campuses and at the Potomac Science Center. They have classrooms and laboratory space for state-of-the-art, cutting-edge research, teaching, and study. The College of Science now has 12 distinct science programs offering 84 degrees. There are 19 majors, 28 minors, plus 15 masters, 11 PhDs, and 11 graduate certificates. That's a tad different than the 5 we had when I graduated. Now, so much for the school. I'm going to talk for the next few minutes about what it was like to be a student back then. Now, in some respects, being a student 50 years ago was not that much different than it is today. Driving back and forth to campus, remember there are no dorms, and in my case, sometimes several times in one day. Trying to schedule time with my advisor, then trying to get a class schedule that fit my work schedule, studying for tests, writing papers, spending countless hours in conducting lab experiments and exercises, and then having to write them up. And again, we did not have computers. We had lab books, pencils, and blue books. I loved some classes, like genetics and algae and fungi. I hated others, like English composition and organic chemistry. Sorry to the chemists, I was a bio major. I even had to get up at the crack of dawn one semester to make it to campus for a 7:30 a.m. Monday morning Spanish lab. That's the year I learned how to drink coffee. In many other respects, however, life as a Mason student in my day was very different than it is today. As I said, we were a small school and there were no dorms. Everyone commuted. As a result, there was no campus life as you think of it today. There was no University of Life office, no Johnson Center, no hub, no dining hall, and no Starbucks or fast food places. There was no University Mall across the street. That was also all woods. The only place on campus for us to gather and eat was a cafeteria in the basement of the South Building, which we called the Ordinary, taken from a colonial period term meaning inn or tavern. And what I suggest is sometimes, go to the archives here at Mason and they have pictures of, if you haven't seen it, they have pictures of what Mason was like in those days. Now, except for the library, which stayed open to 9 or 10 o'clock on weekdays and I think maybe 6 o'clock on weekends, pretty much everything closed up when classes were done for the day, about 5 o'clock. Most students work. A fair number worked full-time, which meant that folks came to class and then left, leaving campus essentially deserted about dinner time. Pretty much the only social life I can recall was through the Greek organizations. There were 2 fraternities, Teak, of which I was a member, and Kappa Sigma, which is no longer on campus. And there were 3 sororities, Chi Omega, Phi Mu, which is no longer on campus, and Delta Sigma Delta, which was a local sorority that eventually merged into Zeta. Now, I vaguely recall a few other student organizations. I know there was a chess club, there was an astronomy club, and oh, by the way, the astronomy club built Mason's first telescope on that property, which was a farm and is now where the field house is. That's where the first telescope, and they hand-built it. While many of the courses offered back then had the same titles as they do today, the advances in scientific disciplines make the material being taught today vastly different. Take DNA, for example. About 1971 or 72, Mason hired its first biochemist, Dr. Jean Janachat. Now, Dr. Y's area of research as a biochemist was DNA, the first DNA research here at Mason. Now, Dr. Y got his DNA from rat livers. In those days, the rats were initially bought and used by the psychology department. And when they had done messing with the rats' heads, the rats came over to the biology department for the anatomy classes. When the bio students were done with their dissections, Dr. Y would come downstairs, harvest the rat livers, and then take them back to his lab upstairs. Now, I was a student assistant in the chemistry department at the time, and I happened to be working in the lab one day when Dr. Y was on the last step of the extraction process, and he asked me to help. He had a small beaker with some residue in the bottom. Now, he had this beaker and he took this glass, I love telling this story. Took this glass rod, sterile glass rod, and he put it in the beaker and started slowly twirling it. Well, my job was to slowly decant the grain alcohol into the beaker. Now, as I did that, as he was twisting the glass rod, the strands of DNA wrapped around the glass rod like translucent spaghetti. It was the most amazing thing I had ever seen. It was truly awesome. Right here in a lab in the chemistry department of what was then George Mason College, DNA was being extracted like magic. Honestly, I don't know what Dr. Y did with it after that, but I can still picture it like it was yesterday. Now, by now, y'all are probably wondering, what's the point? Right? Yeah. Well, my hope is to give you all a sense of just how far science, scientific education, and this university have come in just over 50 years. Take my story about Dr. Janachat and his DNA research. Excuse me, what was then truly an awe-inspiring event for me is today, I've been told, a common lab exercise in basic biology. Scientists have mapped the human genome and today are using DNA to help solve crimes and find a cure for cancer. When I was in college, most of the general public had no idea what DNA stood for. Today, DNA has become so commonplace in our lives that for less than $20, you can go to Walgreens and get a DNA-based paternity test kit. From astronomy to astrophysics to quantum mathematics to cellular biology to nanoparticles and film-based fluorescence sensors. In the 50 years since I graduated from college, advances in scientific knowledge have taken us places that then only were the imaginings of science fiction writers. You are the beneficiaries of and participants in this amazing progression of scientific endeavor. Your degree from Mason will enable you to enter careers that will lead to discoveries that will take us places we can only dream of today. Y'all are part of a legacy that started in 1957 as a branch campus of the University of Virginia with 17 students in a single building in Bailey's Crossroads. From that inauspicious start 66 years ago, George Mason University has grown into an R1 research institution of about 40,000 students with campuses throughout Northern Virginia and in South Korea. There are almost 230,000 alumni. Mason graduates are among the most creative, innovative, and inventive alumni anywhere. And you are part of that. I am absolutely convinced that you will make a difference in this world. Now, why am I so sure? Because of what you all had to go through to overcome to get here. You all survived the COVID-19 pandemic. Almost overnight, COVID changed the entire world. Billions of lives have been upended. According to the World Health Organization, as of May 3rd, 2023, that's just a couple of weeks ago, there have been almost 800 million cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide since the beginning of the pandemic. Also, according to WHO, almost 7 million people have died. That's more than the combined populations of the cities of Los Angeles, Phoenix, and San Diego. And I'm sure those numbers from WHO are on the low end. COVID has been like an apocalyptic dystopian science fiction novel come to life, particularly with all the uncertainties and the disruptions caused by the pandemic. Masks aren't necessary. Everybody needs to wear a mask. Hell no, I ain't wearing no damn mask. Social distancing, 6 feet, 8 feet, across the room. One-way aisles in grocery stores, face shields in public, signs everywhere extolling us to wash our hands for 20 seconds, complete with pictures as if we didn't know how to do it. To vaccinate or not to vaccinate. Hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, bleach. Stores and businesses shuttered. Those that remained open were stripped bare of toilet paper and cleaning products. Hand disinfectant, hoarded and sold on the black market. Then there was life by Zoom. Here at Mason, the shift to online courses occurred virtually overnight midway through the semester. That was followed by several years of online classes, both synchronous and asynchronous. Having to adjust to virtual collaboration for group projects and submitting assignments through Blackboard. The struggle to take lab courses. Travel restrictions seriously curtailed both domestic and international travel, in many cases delaying or even preventing students from pursuing their degrees. Some of you were forced to move back in with your parents or other relatives. Many of you also suffered job restructuring and job loss. The stress of trying to pay your bills, make tuition payments, and in all too many cases, just buy food. Canceled sporting events, canceled social lives, canceled this, canceled that, canceled. Wondering when, if ever, we would get back to normal. When we did get back onto campus, there were strict mask requirements, showing the magic green screen that said you were safe to come onto campus. Random spit tests in the Johnson Center. Through all that, and so much more, you all have persevered to finish your degrees and graduate. Given what you all have overcome to get here today, Given what you all have overcome to get here today, I believe there is nothing, and I do mean nothing, that you all can't overcome. You are our pandemic patriots and will forever go down in the lore of this university. Your cohort, you and others, will be studied and written about by social science researchers for decades. So just be prepared for the surveys that are soon to come. You have done your families, your loved ones, and the university proud. More importantly, you have done yourselves proud. Give yourselves a round of applause. Now, a final thought. I opened this morning by congratulating you on becoming a College of Science alumni. So, what does it mean to be an alumni? Well, I believe it's all about connections. Being a member of the George Mason University Alumni Association and of the College of Science chapter in particular provides you with a whole host of opportunities to stay connected. You can volunteer, be a mentor, participate in a science series lecture, attend an alumni function, network, serve on the College of Science Alumni Board, and financially support such efforts as student scholarships and scientific research. Just how you stay engaged with the university is up to you, Whether it's in person or virtual, we want to help you stay connected. Remember, once a patriot, always a patriot. Please remember, too, that we want to hear from you, what you're doing, where you're going, your accomplishments and milestones. We also want your ideas and suggestions for ways that we can help you and other College of Science alumni stay connected. Please email us or connect with us on LinkedIn. You could even send us a letter. However you do it, we want to hear from you. I'm going to close with words taken from a poem entitled "This Milestone of Your Life" by Rita Capezzi. No matter how far you travel, no matter if you don't travel at all, you are on the cusp of a new life. People you love will have expectations of you, both spoken and unspoken. This you already know. May you know, too, that you carry within you a spark of the universe creating itself. That spark connects you to all that is, all that was, and all that ever will be. That spark is always there in you, bringing you into being, always a force of creativity and possibility, especially when the expectations of others overwhelm or disappoint you. When you doubt yourself or feel afraid. When you fail, as we all do at times, remember that spark, always there, sustaining and revitalizing you. I wish for each of you unbridled success. May your lives be full of happiness, accomplishments, and wondrous adventures. Thank you.